Welcome to In Between Two Trees with your amazing host, Ethan William Frank. And today we have our not so well known guest, Amy Frank. Hello, thanks for being on the show today.
No problem, my pleasure.
So, Amy, I've heard you once lived in the Fatherland. Can you tell us about your experiences there and how long you were there for?
So if you mean the fatherland, that would be Germany, and I lived in Germany from 1985 to 1990. I was 10 to 15 years old, and I lived there because my dad was in the Air Force, and he was stationed at Rhein-Main Air Force Base, which is it's where the Frankfurt Airport is. But we didn't live on the base, so we actually lived off base, which was great because then I could have German friends and American friends. I lived in base housing though, off base in this little town called Langen. And we lived in an apartment complex that was actually old World War II Nazi apartments. So it was a 4-bedroom apartment. There were 6 apartments in a stairwell, and there were maids' quarters on the top floor. So the Nazi soldiers must have had some maids. We did not.
Very interesting. So during the time the USSR controlled the east side of Germany and the west side was a democracy, can you tell us your experiences on both sides?
So I was super lucky. I actually got to go to East Germany 3 times with my family, my mom and my dad. My dad, because he was in the military, could fill out all this like paperwork so we could visit. So what we would do is we would go to the border, and he would have to go into this building and have to give us paperwork, and he'd usually jingle American money in his pockets, and sometimes he could barter for something. So one of the things he got was this Russian belt buckle. We also got a Russian hat that my brother has. And then we would go from that part of the border all the way to West Berlin, and we had 2 hours to get there, and they timed us. And then once we were in West Berlin, we actually would stay in West Berlin in a hotel, and then we could go to Checkpoint Charlie, which is a really famous place to go through because my dad had special paperwork, but for that one we'd have to hold up our passport, so it was a little bit more scary, these soldiers with guns everywhere, and go through the Berlin Wall over to East Berlin. And I liked it a lot. It was cool to like see a communist country, but it was very poor. I remember people waiting in lines for bread and like books like 2 blocks worth. But the American dollar was super strong at that time, so we could go and spend a ton of money there and it'd be really cheap. So we get like a 7-course meal for like the price of a McDonald's meal. But we picked up some things there, like this bear was like the mascot of East Berlin. So I have this bear. I have some, it was Deutschmarks at the time. They have the euro now in Germany, but these are some pfennigs. So I have some 10-piece pfennigs, but I also have 1. So this is a West Berlin pfennig, feel how that feels. And then this is an East Berlin. So this is the communist one, and that's a 1 pfennig, super light. It's made, I think, out of aluminum, super light. It was really cool to be able to go and see what life was like for the people with communism.
Interesting. Because you were so old, you were there when the Berlin Wall was up. Can you describe what it was like and how it impacted Germany?
So I actually was there 9 days before the Berlin Wall went down. There was like these places where on the west side, there's graffiti all over. We actually have a piece of the Berlin Wall because I was there. Shortly, we got it from some friends who were there when it actually went down. But there's graffiti all over the Berlin Wall, and they had these like podiums that you could go up and like look over into no man's land, which was filled with like no men. It had mines and barbed wire and stuff. And then the East German Wall was on the other side. And if you ever saw the East German Wall, there was no graffiti or anything on it because they had soldiers that would shoot you if you got close to the wall on that side. There was a lot of people that actually tried to escape to come over to West Berlin. But the wall went down November 9th, and I remember we were on that podium November 1st, and my dad was like, I probably will never see the wall go down in my lifetime, but hopefully you will. And then 9 days later it did. A German official, an East German official, made a mistake, and then people just started flooding the checkpoints, and the soldiers didn't know what to do, and that's actually how the wall opened up, the borders opened up. But we actually have a paper here. This is the Stars and Stripes. This is the newspaper that soldiers would get. This is the walls crumbling. And this is actually from November 11th, 1989. The wall went down November 9th. So it's a couple days later after the wall. But I hear today, like, if you go back to Germany or Berlin, the west side is like the yucky, kind of not good side, and the east side has been totally like tore down and built up and is more modern. When I was there, it was really gray and drab and very poor looking. But I haven't been back, so I'm not sure, but that's what I've heard.
I know from experience you like to torture your family with long hikes. Where do you think that originates from?
So in Germany, we were there for 5 years. My dad would usually have weekends off, so as a family, we would do these things called Volksmarches, which would be hikes, and they'd be like 6 miles long, and a bunch of people would do them at the same time. It'd usually like take you to a castle, or you'd be hiking through like a really old city, and you'd get like these little medals to like nail into your little walking stick, which we all had walking sticks, and they had like rest stops that would sell beer and brats, and things to eat, Brötchen, which is like hard rolls to eat, to like refuel for your hike. So I loved those hikes a lot, and that was how I actually got to see a lot of Germany. As a family, we'd go to a different one every weekend. So that's why I love to hike and torture you with hikes.
Awesome. So when people came to visit you and your family in Germany, what would you guys go do or see?
So if we had American relatives come visit us, we'd often take them to like a beer hall and, eat schnitzel and, traditional German food. We'd also take them to the Trinkhalle, which was really close to our house. It was a little like window where you could buy candy. We'd always go as kids, we'd get lots of gummy or goomy candy there. They also sold alcohol there. We'd take them there, but we'd also do Rhine River cruises. So we'd get on the Rhine River and go on a boat, and usually, there's tons of castles on the river, and we usually stop in Heidelberg, which is a very famous castle in Germany. So those are some of the things we do. We'd also go visit things like Rothenburg, which is like a walled city, which was built during the Roman time, which is pretty neat. It's an actual city that's surrounded by giant walls. So cool stuff like that.
Awesome. So I know socks and sandals are very popular in Germany still to this day. So how when you were growing up, how was fashion in Germany, and was it different from the USA during the time?
It was different, actually. So I was lucky. I could shop on base and get American clothes, but I oftentimes would go shopping in Frankfurt with my best friend and buy German clothes. It was one of our games we'd play is, can you spot the American in the crowd? So we would based on how people were dressed, we'd say like, that person's probably American, and then we'd go walk close to them and hear if they were speaking English, and we got really good at it. But when I lived in Germany, it was the 80s, so bright and bold was super like in style at the time, and France is where Paris is, and that's like the fashion capital of the world. So I was actually more stylish than my American cousins and things like that. I know that when we came back to America for my grandpa's funeral, I had all these like fluorescent sweaters, bright pink, yellow sweaters, and crazy pants, and everyone would make fun of me. And then 2 months later, they were all wearing what I had been wearing. So it was fun to live close to Paris and have fun clothes to wear.
Amazing. So I heard that there's a scary castle named after me in Germany. Can you tell us about your experience, and do you actually think it was haunted?
So the scary castle is not named after you.
No, it is.
It's called the Frankenstein Castle because it's near Frankfurt. It's actually ruins, and it's ruins because of World War II. It got hit by some bombers. The Franks that you're from is actually from Bavaria, and I'm a Pochner, and we're from Würzburg, which is close to Frankfurt. But the castle's not named after you. But anyways, we would go there at Halloween. A bunch of U.S. soldiers would go there, and they would decorate it, and they would like try and scare you and wear masks and things. And it was a big thing. Germans would go there, Americans would go there, and try and get scared. And it was fun because we'd always get glue wine because it was cold. And glue wine is heated wine, and it's very common for young people to also have glue wine. It's not a big deal to have alcohol when you're young there. But I don't think it's haunted. It was just a fun way to get scared during Halloween.
Awesome. So how did the Germans get around? And I don't mean with each other, I mean like transportation and stuff.
Thanks for clarifying. So a big way is the Autobahn. I actually have a shirt that says "I survived the Autobahn," and it's a picture of West Germany and all the Autobahns because there's no speed limit. We would ride on the Autobahn on a bus actually to get to our apartment building off base. But a lot of people actually have bikes there. A lot of people bike in Germany. And they have amazing public transportation. Buses and trains are huge. So like it was very common for a field trip, we would all get on these luxury buses that would have like bathrooms in the back. Or sometimes we would just like the whole school would get on a train and go to Cologne, which I actually have like some keychains. I used to collect keychains. Go to Cologne for the day in a big train. But I would go on the train. My parents, I would ride my bike with my best friend to the Langen train station, park our bikes, lock them up, get on the train, take a 20-minute drive down to Frankfurt, go shopping all day. Keep in mind, I was like 12 years old. I don't know if I'd let you do that when you were 12, but it was tons of fun. And it was really easy to get around and travel.
Awesome. Did you like Germany?
I love Germany.
Then why haven't you taken your family there?
Well, what do I do as a job?
You're a teacher.
I'm a teacher, so I don't make a ton of money. It's very expensive to fly over there and stay. The American dollar isn't as strong as it was when I lived there. But I really would love to take you back there, maybe in a couple of years. Maybe
Hopefully.
when I'm 50, it'll be our trip.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for joining me today on the show. It was nice having you as a guest.
Awesome. Thanks
And
for
I hope
having
the
me.
viewers love learning more about Germany.
Awesome.